This training video will show the basic steps for concentrating and preserving eDNA water samples by centrifugation and alcohol addition in accordance with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Region 3 Invasive Carp eDNA Program's Quality Assurance Project Plan, or QAPP. For the most comprehensive information on how to decontaminate gear, please refer to Section B2 of the QAPP. Prior to receiving samples, make sure that the eDNA trailer or designated processing space has been thoroughly cleaned and decontaminated and set up for sample processing. Centrifuges should be turned on to allow refrigeration to cool the centrifuge compartments to 4 degrees Celsius. Upon receiving samples at the processing trailer, 50 milliliter tubes should be removed from the transport cooler with clean gloves. Caps should be checked and tightened. Sample tubes need to be dried before being placed into centrifuge inserts using a clean paper towel and then placed into the green centrifuge inserts. Replace the paper towels with new sheets as they become saturated. It can be beneficial to have a stack of clean paper towel sheets at the ready prior to receipt of samples. The same pair of gloves may be used for the drying process. Tubes from a single sample may be split among separate inserts. However, it is crucial that all the tubes from a single sample are placed in the same centrifuge to help ensure samples remain together and in the same step throughout processing. Field blanks should be handled in the same manner as a regular sample throughout this entire process. Dry and load tubes into inserts until a full centrifuge batch, or 4 complete inserts, are prepared. Load all 4 inserts into a centrifuge, making sure the tubes are distributed evenly on opposite sides to properly balance the centrifuge. With the centrifuge loaded, set the centrifuge to spin for 30 minutes at the max speed, which depends on your insert type. Press start to begin spinning. Change your gloves and begin preparing the next set of samples and inserts. Once samples have been centrifuged for 30 minutes, remove the batch of samples from the centrifuge. After this first spin, the eDNA will be on the bottom of the tube. With a clean pair of gloves for each set of tubes comprising 1 sample, carefully remove cap and gently pour off water into a wastewater container. Gloves should be changed between each sample, and always change gloves when potential contamination is suspected. For example, the same pair of gloves can be used for all 5 tubes of sample 5. Then a new pair of gloves should be used to handle the tubes in sample 6. It is important to try to pour off as much water as possible without disturbing the pellet at the bottom of the tube. If it looks like a full decant isn't going to be possible, Section B2 of the QAPP has detailed instructions on how to proceed. After pouring off the excess water, add 20 milliliters of either 95% non-denatured ethanol or 70 to 99% isopropyl to each tube. Field blanks should be handled in the same manner as a regular sample. Replace the cap and swirl the tube to ensure the preservative coats the pellet. Put the tube back in the insert and continue. The process up to this point must be completed within 24 hours of individual sample collection. At this point, if you are hand delivering samples, you can place the samples into clean storage or shipping racks. If you plan to ship the samples using FedEx, continue with the processes in this video. However, it is important to note that if a full decant of the water was not possible due to the pellet being loose, you must continue with the following steps for all samples that had issues to ensure an adequate preservation level. Once all tubes in a batch have been decanted and ethanol has been added, return the tubes and inserts to the centrifuge and centrifuge preserved samples for an additional 10 minutes. After the 10-minute spin is complete, again remove tubes and inserts from the centrifuge. Decant as much excess alcohol as possible without disturbing the pellet, so that only the conical end of the tube has any alcohol left in it. At this point, if you had trouble decanting the water, add an additional 5 to 10 milliliters of alcohol to ensure proper preservation and leave the excess in the tube. Recap each tube and place in a clean storage or shipping rack. Once again, gloves should be changed between samples. After you have completed decanting alcohol from a batch of samples, and the tubes are now in a storage or shipping rack, record the time centrifuging was completed for that batch and the initials of the designated processing QA/QC in the Field Maps app.